99% of historians refuse to discuss the clear pagan and alchemical symbolism encoded in the cathedral's very geometry. The church paid for its construction, but it was the stonemason guilds, secretive organizations that preserved knowledge the church deemed heretical, who held the chisels. They were the keepers of a forbidden fire. The labyrinth at Chartres Cathedral, which you trace with your eyes on the cold floor, is not a Christian symbol of pilgrimage. It's a pre-Christian pagan design, a map of rebirth and cosmic alignment that the priests who walk over it every day are trained not to see. You have what you need to survive another week, to quiet the creature in your stomach. As you turn to melt back into the darkness toward the village, a dog barks. Too close. You freeze, every muscle screaming. The life-saving roots in your sack suddenly feel as heavy as your own tombstone. Someone is watching. Who else knows the secret of the witch in the woods? And what will they demand for your silence? The official story is that they are grotesque guardians designed to ward off evil spirits and channel rainwater away from the stone. But you know better. You see the fat jowls of a specific, gluttonous bishop. You see the pinched, cruel mouth of the king's most hated tax collector. This was a dangerous, anonymous form of protest, a silent scream of rebellion carved in stone. For every 100 prayers whispered inside, 1,000 silent curses were etched on the outside. But the secrets go far deeper than political satire. They replace self-sufficient farms with corporate supply chains, wild medicine with pharmaceuticals, and ancestral knowledge with dependence on a system you cannot control. The witch's garden has been paved over by supermarkets filled with food deserts. They still don't want you to be able to feed yourself. The knowledge is the threat. It always has been. She pushes a rough burlap sack into your hands. It's heavy with roots, leaves, and bark. It is heavy with life, but it is also heavy with sin, a crime against the authority of God and man. They tell you the cathedrals were built to glorify God. The forbidden truth is they were also giant public displays of a secret heretical knowledge, hidden in plain sight. You stand on the cold cobblestones, your neck craned back so far you feel the vertebrae click. The cathedral is not a building. It is a mountain range carved by human hands, piercing a sky the color of lead. The wind bites at your exposed skin, carrying the faint scent of incense and damp earth. High above, the gargoyles leer down. You hear the soft, rhythmic scrape of her knife against a root, an ASMR-like sound of sustenance being carved from the forbidden earth. In that moment, the lie unravels. The church condemns this knowledge not because it is evil, but because it is powerful. It makes you independent. A peasant who can feed himself from the forest is a peasant who doesn't need to tithe his last grain. He doesn't need to beg for salvation from the men who starve him. This is the same quiet war they wage on you now, 700 years in your future. They buried the people who spoke them. The nettles boiling away their sting offer more iron and vitamins than the Lord's moldy bread. The dandelion greens are a bitter medicine that cleans the blood. This isn't witchcraft, it is a forbidden science. The old woman looks up, her eyes ancient and knowing. She doesn't offer comfort, only truth. She hands you a hunk of raw burdock root. The priest tells you God provides through the church, she rasps, her voice like stones grinding together. He is wrong. God provides in the soil. The church only provides the lock for the granary. He leads you to the far wall, to a single loose stone at the base. He pries it out. Behind it isn't a latch, but a small iron ring. He pulls, and a section of the floor grinds open with a sound that scrapes your bones. It's not a compartment for documents. It's a hole, a shaft leading down into absolute black. And from that blackness, the metallic, sweet smell rises, thick and undeniable. You realize with a surge of ice in your veins that they didn't just bury the truths they didn't like. The priest would call it consorting with demons, but you watch her hands and you see no sorcery. You see survival. Her fingers, gnarled as roots, pluck stinging nettles with practiced ease, dig for burdock, and strip the tender inner bark from a willow. 99% of people today don't know that these weren't just weeds. They were a pharmacy, a pantry, a defiant act of self-preservation. Modern archaeobotanical analysis of medieval cooking pots has found the pollen of these exact plants, the silent, microscopic proof of a vast, hidden nutritional network that operated in the shadows of official history. Knowledge that could have taught crop rotation to starving villages, hygiene to plague-ridden cities, and reason to a world ruled by superstition. They didn't burn these books. The truth is so much colder. They simply chose not to copy them. They buried them in the dark, starving the future to protect the fragile narrative of the present. They let wisdom die of neglect. But the chill that runs down your spine isn't from the damp or the dead knowledge. It's from Thomas's eyes as he looks at you, his fear finally hardening into a terrible resolve. You follow a path that isn't a path, a ghost of a trail worn by others who have made this same desperate pilgrimage. At the edge of the forest, where the darkness is thickest, you see her. An old woman, her back bent like a yew branch, her hands working with a knowledge that predates the stone of the church. She is a hedge witch, a name meant to inspire fear. But tonight, it is your only hope. The metallic tang of fear coats your tongue. Being here is a death sentence. The Lord's Reeve would see this as witchcraft. The tools change, from quill and wax to complex algorithms and offshore accounts. But the architecture of the crime is eternal. The system protects its own, using morality as a shield for greed. Thomas sees the understanding, the disgust in your eyes. He pulls you past the forgers, deeper into the chamber, to a set of shelves sagging under the weight of bound leather. "This is the greater sin," he whispers, his voice cracking. He points not to what they wrote, but to what they let rot. Here lie the real treasures: translations of Arabic medicine, Greek philosophy, Roman engineering. A truth that tastes of earth and rebellion. You slip out of your hovel as the last sliver of sun dies behind the hills. The air is cold, carrying the smell of damp soil and desperation. Every shadow is a pair of eyes. The priest's words echo in your mind, a litany of warnings against the old ways, against the devil's knowledge that lurks beyond the village fence. He speaks of damnation, but your body speaks only of starvation. In secret rooms like this one, uncovered by archaeologists at places like the Cluny Abbey in France, monks became the original white-collar criminals. They weren't copying the Bible. They were forging land charters, faking papal bulls, and inventing histories that stole the fields from under a farmer's feet and the titles from a lord's name, all while cloaked in the untouchable righteousness of God. It's the same institutional sickness you see today. The same calculated fraud that traded worthless mortgage-backed securities and crashed the world's economy in 2008. The same billion-dollar nonprofit endowments that hoard wealth while paying no taxes. The church teaches you that prayer fills an empty stomach. But as you lie on the dirt floor, the gnawing in your belly has become a creature with teeth, and prayer is just a word. The Lord's granary is locked, a monument to a harvest you bled for but cannot taste. This is the great lie they want you to believe, that you are helpless, that your fate rests in the hands of God and His appointed masters on earth. But you know a secret, a truth whispered on the wind and passed down through the blood of mothers. They are hunched over heavy oak desks, their focus absolute. One carefully drips dark berry juice onto a corner of fresh parchment, staining it to look centuries old. Another holds a finished document over a candle, the rising smoke giving the page the scent and texture of antiquity. You hear the soft, wet thump of a heavy wax seal being pressed into place, the sound of a lie becoming law. 99% of people will never know that the vast land holdings of the church, the very foundations of entire noble lineages, were built right here. They were willing to let you die from a treatable head wound to protect a lie. It makes you wonder, what other truths about your own body did they bury with the dead? Each step down is a step away from God's light. Your lungs feel tight. Thomas stops before a wall that looks like all the others, but his trembling fingers find a seam you would never see. A low groan of stone on stone echoes in the suffocating silence as he pushes, revealing a doorway into a deeper darkness. This isn't a wine cellar, it's a factory. The room is filled not with the sound of prayer, but the quiet, intense scratching of quills. 4 other monks, their faces pale and slick in the lamplight, don't look up. Because a church that cannot offer the best path to survival in this life and the next loses its grip on your soul. If a heretic surgeon using forbidden science can save your child from a fever when a priest's prayers have failed, the entire foundation of their power cracks. It's the same cold calculation you see today when a breakthrough medical study that threatens billions in pharmaceutical profits is suddenly buried, defunded, or smeared as pseudoscience. The truth they hid then is the same truth they hide now. They will always choose power over your survival. The great lie is that the church was built on faith. The truth is, it was built on ink, and that ink was poison. You follow the boy, he can't be more than 16, down the winding stone steps. His name is Thomas, and his whispered prayers are not for God, but for courage. The flame from his tallow lamp throws his shadow, long and skeletal, against the sweating walls. The air grows heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth, chilled stone, and something else, something metallic and vaguely sweet, like old blood that incense can't quite mask. This technique didn't come from a holy vision. It was lifted from the pages of banned Arabic texts, from the work of brilliant minds like al-Zahrawi, a surgeon whose knowledge was centuries ahead of anyone in Christendom. The church called his books Saracen magic, a demonic corruption. They systematically hunted down these texts, these blueprints for saving lives, and threw them into bonfires. The ashes of medical genius scattered on the wind like a secret no one was meant to hear. Why? He was the warning. But this brutal theater was just the curtain. It was designed to hide an even darker secret. What happened to the ones who weren't put in the square? The ones who were simply taken away in the dead of night, whose names were never spoken again. It's the sound of a key turning in a lock that has been rusted shut for 1,000 years. This man, this supposed butcher, knows exactly how to relieve the deadly pressure building inside your head. We know this because archaeologists have analyzed over 600 medieval skulls with these same terrifying holes, and the evidence is staggering. The smooth, healed bone proves a survival rate of over 70%. This wasn't guesswork. It was a science, a forbidden knowledge the church wanted erased from memory. You hear it then, an ASMR quality detail your mind couldn't process in the chaos. The soft, wet scrape of Thomas's fingernails against the splintered wood of the pillory. A desperate, hopeless sound that was swallowed by the screaming. A sound of a soul trying to claw its way out of a trap. You bolt your door. You check the shutter. The lesson has been learned. You will not ask questions. You will keep your head down. But as you lie in the darkness, a colder, more terrible thought takes root. Thomas, for all his agony, was the public face of control. He lifts the drill from the fire, the metal hissing as he douses it in the steaming vinegar, a crude but effective antiseptic. He's about to perform a trepanation. He is about to drill a hole in your skull. 99% of people believe this is a death sentence, a barbaric ritual performed by ignorant brutes. But that is the first lie. The scraping sound begins, a low, gritty vibration that you feel in your teeth, in the very bones of your face. Keep the population terrified of each other, and they will never have the courage to confront the ones who truly hold the power. As the sun begins to bleed across the sky, they cut Thomas down. He collapses, a broken thing of rags and blood. The crowd melts away, the performance over. You walk home, the silence of the evening alleys more menacing than the earlier noise. What they don't want you to know is that the most dangerous object in the medieval world isn't a sword. It's the bronze drill turning slowly in the firelight, glowing a dull, menacing orange. You lie on the wooden table, the rough-hewn planks digging into your back, and you feel the cold dread crawl up your spine. The man leaning over you is no priest. There is no holy water, no whispered prayer for your soul. He is a barber surgeon, and he smells of boiling vinegar and wine-soaked herbs, a sharp, clean scent that cuts through the fear. The facts of medieval justice are a deliberate lie, designed to misdirect your anger. They keep you afraid of your neighbor, so you never look up at the castle. It's a technique of psychological warfare, so perfect, so ruthlessly effective, that it echoes in the modern world. Every 24-hour news cycle that amplifies fear of an outside threat while ignoring the systemic corruption at home is just a larger town square with a more sophisticated pillory. The script is the same. The goal is the same. Drop a comment with the medieval fact that surprised you most, or what role you think you'd play if you were born in the year 1287. Let's begin and live the life they never got to finish. But be warned, some truths about the past are harder to forget than others. Last autumn, the Baron's son, drunk on French wine, ran down a farmer's daughter with his horse, leaving her broken in the mud. His punishment? A quiet penance of 50 psalms and a fine, paid directly to the church, a sum that ensured the girl's family remained silent. The records are filled with these inconvenient truths: nobles committing murder, rape, and brutal assault, their sins washed away with silver behind closed doors. Meanwhile, a weaver who speaks his mind is made into a spectacle of blood and shame. The cost for us is a lifetime of quiet obedience. If you love immersive, real storytelling about survival, belief, and forgotten lives. Hit like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. This entire series is about a single, explosive idea: that the Dark Ages weren't dark because of ignorance, but because the lights of forbidden knowledge were being systematically extinguished. What was in that forbidden book? It's the key to a conspiracy that will shatter everything you believe about the past. They aren't just containing the crowd, they are directing it, like stagehands in a passion play. Look at the priest on the church steps, his voice rising in a sermon about obedience, just as Thomas's screams reach a fever pitch. It is all a symphony of control. And here is the secret that changed everything: a truth buried in sealed church records from the 13th century, only recently digitized and pieced together by historians who risk their careers to reveal it. While the priest preaches that the bloody flux is God's divine wrath, a punishment for your sins, the fragmented text you guard with your life speaks of contagion, of foul water, of herbs that cool a fever. They call it witchcraft. You call it a chance to see your child live past the age of 5. This is the exact same model of information control used today. Label independent knowledge as misinformation, discredit alternative science as quackery, and centralize all truth through institutions you control. The emotional cost for you is death. The master mason doesn't even look up from his work. He just makes a subtle sign of warding with his left hand, a gesture far older than the cross. You feel a cold dread snake into your gut. They had to hide their knowledge in their work, because to speak it aloud was to invite a visit in the dark. And you realize the chilling truth. The gargoyles aren't just mocking the powerful. They're also a warning to the builders themselves of the monstrous fate that awaits anyone who breaks the code of silence. In the alehouse, after his third drink, he asked why God needed the bishop to have a golden carriage, and for that, he is here. What 99% of people never learn is that the most heinous crimes, blasphemy, heresy, questioning the delicate architecture of power, always carried the most public, most theatrical punishments. The purpose was never to punish the one, but to terrorize the 1,000, to plant a seed of fear so deep in your soul that the thought of dissent dies before it can ever become a word. Look at the guards. Beneath it, wrapped in a piece of greasy oilcloth, is something that could get your entire family hanged, drawn, and burned. It's a book. This isn't a fairy tale. From Poland to England, archaeologists have unearthed the proof they tried to bury. Styluses and wax tablets found in the dirt floors of peasant dwellings. A secret world of knowledge, passed in whispers, hidden from the church's iron grip. And your book isn't the Bible. It's something far more powerful, something forbidden. It is a language of light, stone, and mathematics, but it is a language that can get you killed. Tonight, in the flickering torchlight of the Guildhall, you hear the sharp, rhythmic tap-tap scrape of a master finishing a carving. It's a sound of creation, but then you hear another sound from the alley outside, a wet, muffled thump, followed by a gasp that is cut short. One of your brothers, a young apprentice named Thomas, had been boasting in the tavern, his tongue loosened by ale, about the true solar meaning of the rose window. Now there is only silence. Now he is just a sound, a raw, ragged scream that is being systematically erased by the jeers of the crowd and the wet, percussive thump of rotten fruit striking his face. A cabbage core catches him just below the eye, and you taste the metallic tang of fear in your own mouth, sharp and cold. This isn't justice. It's a meticulously staged theatrical performance, and you are the intended audience. They told you Thomas committed a heinous crime. Did he murder? Did he steal from the church treasury? No, his crime was far worse. He asked a question. A single tallow candle sputters, its weak flame making the shadows on the wattle and daub walls twist like condemned souls. This is your world. You've never seen a toothbrush. You believe demons live in fog. Your town blames goats for the plague. Welcome to the Middle Ages. But here, in the flickering dark, you do something impossible. Your heart hammers a frantic rhythm against your ribs, a drumbeat of pure terror. Your fingernails scrape against the rough-hewn floorboard, the splintery texture sending a shiver up your spine. It lifts with a faint groan of protest. This is the ultimate subversion, an act of intellectual defiance on a scale almost impossible to comprehend. It's like an NSA programmer hiding messages about freedom in the source code of a global surveillance program. The guilds built the church's greatest monuments while embedding the very symbols the church sought to destroy. This secret knowledge, passed down through bloodlines and apprenticeships, was the real magic of the era. It speaks in the perfect acoustic resonance of the nave, in the alignment of a stained glass window that sets a saint's face ablaze only on the summer solstice. What they don't want you to know is that the man screaming in the square isn't the one being punished. You are. The air is thick, a foul soup of sweat, fear, and damp wool. You stand shoulder to shoulder in the crowded town square, the press of unwashed bodies a constant claustrophobic heat against your skin. In the center of it all is the pillory, and in the pillory is a man. His name was Thomas, you think. He was a weaver. 99% of what you believe about the medieval peasant is a deliberate lie, crafted by centuries of elite historians to keep you compliant. The truth is far more dangerous. It's 1250 AD. The air in your hut is a physical thing, a thick cocktail of wood smoke, damp earth, and the sour scent of unwashed bodies. You can taste the grit of it on your teeth. Outside, the wind howls a lonely song through the skeletal trees of a winter that never seems to end.